The Mayo Experience.
That Mayo Experience. That Mayo Experience. That Mayo Experience. Experience.
Welcome to another edition of the Dog or Pass podcast. I'm your host, Paul Shaughnessy, here to break down UFC Fight Night Santiago, Chile.
Chile.
From, have you ever been? Ever been to Chile?
No, I've never been to South America.
Cody Saftic, obviously my co-host here. Interesting card, top to bottom. It's a fight night card. This is kind of what regional type of fighters, all of the South American standouts or people that they want to promote, kind of getting put into showcase fights here. Lots of crazy lines. Really top heavy. So it's about finding that super value, at least on DraftKings. And there's some lines that we'll talk about here that they've kind of gotten a little bit out of hand in general. What's your take?
Yeah, no, I think you nailed it. This is not a card that's built on name value. It's not a card that, I suppose losing your main event, losing one half of your main event, kind of close to fight time, that's hindered a bit. We get Demian Maia. What version of Demian Maia? Certainly a declined version of Demian Maia. But again, this is not a card that's huge on name value, but what it is good, fun, exciting fights, fairly good matchmaking. That's why some of these lines do actually surprise me. But can't get too ahead of ourselves. Traditionally, we're not bad at these really greasy-ass fight night events where you can kind of see that there's a talent difference in some of these fights. So looking forward to breaking this one down.
Where the market doesn't get adjusted to the same way as like a big pay-per-view where the odds are out for a whole week. Yeah. Like a lot of these lines are still moving. Actually, one of the fights, Suarez versus Grasso, I had to like readjust the line just before we came on here because it jumped up 120 points. But we're going to start with, in the welterweight division, we have Usman taking on Demian Maia. Usman, most expensive guy on DraftKings, 9,500. Maia can be had for 67, minus 360, plus 300, respectively. It's really weird seeing Maia all the way down here, but I think the template's been set. You know, Tyron Woodley basically kind of showed, hey, with like good fundamental takedown defense, you can stop this guy if you're a top level wrestler.
I'm just going to interject really quickly. I believe that's clearly a blueprint now, but if you look at Demian Maia a couple years ago, he gets those takedowns.
Like 41-year-old Demian Maia.
41-year-old Demian Maia doesn't get the takedowns anymore, and that's a huge number. The Tyron Woodley fight, 0-21 on takedowns. The Colby Covington fight, 0-13 on takedowns.
Maia was landing some hands. Maia was landing some hands on him.
He has not completed the last 34 takedown attempts. That's a huge number. So the blueprint is currently out there now. Keep this fight standing. He'll land a couple punches, but he doesn't have the cardio to go 5 hard rounds. He does not. No. He struggled mightily against Colby Covington. The first round, he lands some punches, and I think if you're Colby Covington, this guy only wants to take me down. So you're waiting for the shot, and he surprises you with a couple punches. But rounds 2 and 3, when this guy's tired, and this guy's beat up, and this guy's bleeding, he's not the same guy.
He's not much off of his back. Like, the thing is, guys can take him down and survive in his guard. It's when he gets top control, he gets to mount, and he probably does that better than anybody. Or he can get to your back. It's like one or the other, depending on which way you roll. And he can get to it. But we're talking about 41-year-old Maia taking on Usman, who is a top level wrestler, at least in MMA. I know he doesn't have like the Division I credentials of some of these
he's
other
a D3
guys.
National champion. Yeah. So I know when people say, oh, well, Division 3, it's not Division 1. Wrestling is the kind of sport where a national champion at D3 is easily an All-American in D1 level. Yeah. Maybe things didn't work out for him. We see this a lot of time with junior college
Just
national
didn't get the opportunities, was a bit of a late bloomer type of thing.
Yeah, a friend of mine, EJ Brooks, he was a junior college national champion. He moves up, he goes to the University of Missouri, and he actually beats Michael Chandler in a wrestle-off for the starting position on a D1 program. EJ Brooks, also a fellow MMA fighter, fought for Bellator, now fights for ACB. But wrestling is one of those things where you are a very competent wrestler if you want a national title, whether it's junior college, D3, D2, and obviously Division I. That just shows that you're a creme de la creme guy. But at this level, you just got to know not the basics of wrestling. They know the advanced basics of wrestling. But Kamaru Usman, in terms of wrestling, is as good as anybody in the division. He's one of those guys that has trained at Colorado Springs. He's one of those guys that has wrestled with guys that have accomplished more than him and holds his own. Mm-hmm. So when I think about him in comparison to Colby Covington and in comparison to Tyron Woodley, I think he's on par with them. His striking is something that he's worked on a lot. He has improved it. In his last fight, terrible fight, dog shit fight, But that's him,
He
I
was
guess.
30%.
I was just about to say,
30%,
that's
man.
him, I guess, at 30%. And as far as I'm concerned, that 30% of Kamaru Usman gets the job done against this version of Damian Maia. Then you factor all that in with Damian Maia being a short-nosed replacement for Santiago Ponzinibbio. It's just a recipe for disaster because he's probably going to have 1 or 2 rounds of cardio in him where he's going to have to complete the takedown and he's going to have to get the submission. When you're Damian Maia, is the possibility for a submission there? I guess it's always there because he doesn't need to get under your neck. He just needs to get around your face and he'll face crank you. He is a wizard on the ground, but I think you said it best. He's got to be in top control, and him completing these takedowns against Kamaru Usman, it just seems like you're living in dreamland. 0 for 34, that is a huge number. That's not, his percentage is 5%. This is a massive... In his fights, he's only really trying for those takedowns because even though he can stand and even though he himself has been working on his striking, he's not a striker. He doesn't want to get hit. And he's wearing the damage a lot these days where these punches are busting him up. They are swelling his eyes. His nose has been broken many of times. He gets tired. You're throwing him in a 5-round situation in Chile against a guy in Kamaru Usman who doesn't exactly have a bad gas tank. He could probably go 25 minutes, and even though he's going to pace himself, I'm sure. Yeah, that's not going to be an issue.
It's one of the things, again, where people go, he hasn't fought 5 rounds. It's like, yeah, but you see these guys fighting 3-round fights. And it's like, if the guy, people were saying that about Khabib before. It's just like, if Khabib is able to fight 3 rounds, and at the end of the 3rd round, the guy is still firing all cylinders. It's like,
then why would you think he couldn't?
You have to assume that round 4, he's going to be pretty much what you just saw at the end of round 3. And maybe round 5, maybe that's when it starts to turn around. But if somebody can bank 4 rounds, get to round 5, and just survive, that's a W.
And so when I think about Damian Maia, I think, when's the last time he's had to dig deep and had it, and ended up getting the win?
No, he just flops to his back when things go bad.
The George Masvidal fight, I thought that was 1-1. He needed that 3rd round. He came out, he got the takedowns.
True.
Masvidal, I'm never going to say Masvidal quit on himself. The guy's a warrior end to end. However, he does exactly what he needs to do. But that's a 3-round fight. I'm fairly confident that goes a 4 and a 5. That Masvidal is going to find a way to bust this guy up, keep the fight standing, and potentially beat him. But he saps the energy out of you. He drains you. He's able to get some takedowns. And Masvidal's a good wrestler. But when he takes on, I don't want to say pure wrestlers, this is mixed martial arts, but when he takes guys that predominantly come from that wrestling base, Tyron Woodley, and then furthermore the Colby Covington, and now Kamaru Usman.
He's basically taken on the best 3 wrestlers in the division in the last 3 fights. Kind of tough for this guy. It's like the worst stylistic matchups for him. Guys that it's going to be a challenge to take down. It's like 1, 2, 3. You get all of them.
Yeah, I'm not the biggest Usman supporter either. But
I'm not either, but I think he wins here.
Yeah, I think he's as good as Colby Covington. I think he's pretty damn close to being as good as Tyron Woodley. If those guys fight each other, to me, they're interesting matchups. Kamaru Usman's one of these guys nobody wants to fight. So imagine getting the phone call on a couple weeks' notice, hey, do you want to go to Chile and have a 5-round fight against Usman? Not many guys are willing to answer that phone call. But Damian Maia, props to him. He's a warrior full on, through and through. He answered the call, but that's not to say he's going to get the victory. The minus 400, I didn't like, but I understood it. The fact that the line's gone down, minus 360, it's a little bit better. Obviously, people don't want to pay up that big of a price on a guy like Usman, who's not a finisher. So he may give Maia a couple opportunities to fight his way into this fight. Just that 5 rounds is a big seller for me. And then as far as the DraftKings pricing goes, Usman doesn't really always go for it. I know that he
could turn this into a striking affair where Maia tries to shoot on him a bit, and he just kind of outpoints him on the feet.
Yeah.
The thing is, the 5 rounds, like as we were saying, if this gets into round 3, I think Usman's going to have the better gas tank. He's going to be able. That's when you would be able to start compiling points. But you're kind of throwing out the. If it goes that route.
Yeah, here's the
Or
other
he
thing.
couldn't. Who knows, man? He could finish him early here too, though.
I mean, it's Damian.
Maia's old.
Yes, but taking out Damian Maia is a feather in the cap. It is difficult. He has fought literally the who's in this sport, and for the most part, he's lived to tell the tale. The guy has excellent ability to sustain. Jiu-jitsu, kind of that self-defense aspect. He'll flop on his back to defend himself. He won't stand there and get butchered standing. He's fought the best guys, whether it's the Rory McDonalds of the world, but in those fights, the Rory fight, he gets Rory down early, but then he fatigues. It's a lot of work. The Jake Shields fight, you're going against a top-notch grappler as well. The longer the fight goes, he fatigues. And then furthermore, nowadays, 41-year-old Damian Maia, he's not getting the takedowns, and he's still fatiguing. Not a good look. The one thing when I'm thinking about the 9,500 on DraftKings,
it's hard. You got to make your decision at the top. There's so many. The top price here is super top heavy, and it's like it's going to be tough to fit like 2 people from this range into it. Like you have Usman, Silva, Suarez, Andrea Lee. Saenz is going to be the least owned of that bunch. You got to think.
Yeah.
And you got to kind of pick your poison up top though.
Yeah. The thing is for me is if I'm part of this camp and if I'm working with Kamaru Usman, first of all, we've got Gilbert Burns as a training partner here. So don't worry. We've got a guy that's excellent in jiu-jitsu at this weight class. That'll be able to help you out. Or at 155 pounds, a slightly smaller man. But we'll be able to help you in that dynamic. You haven't had a full camp for Damian Maia, but let's throw that aside. The thing is if I'm coming up with the game plan for him, the path to victory here is one, we keep the fight standing. Obviously, that's probably the more pronounced game plan. But the thing with that is that same thing with Colby Covington fight. He's looking to take you down, so you don't want to open up. You don't want to throw those combos. You don't want to throw.
So it could be slow.
Yeah, you don't want to throw 3 punches. You're just going to pot shot this guy. The jab's going to eat him up all day. Usman's got a great reach. Damian Maia is very susceptible to jab, but it's tentative striking. Tentative striking, it's not going to get me that price. Option number 2, pin this guy against the fence. You're the stronger man. You're probably a little bit bigger than he is. Pin him up against the cage, zap him out of his energy, and then take him into those deeper waters, and then that's why you're going to be able to beat him. But holding up a guy against the cage, knees to the body, short clinch work, that's not going to score big. And the third option is you do get the takedown. You do kind of play the guard game. But again, you're not going to go full on ground and pound. You're not going to try to pass the guard. You're just going to play it safe. You're going to hit him a couple times where you feel that you can, steal the round, get some points. None of those 3 options for the victory over Damian Maia would suggest that he's going to score to get his value. Could he get a knockout in the first round? Of course, it's MMA. Anything can happen. And he is getting a short notice 41-year-old Damian Maia. But Tyron Woodley is a very heavy power puncher. But when he goes into that fight, he's got to fight a smart game plan.
Yeah, because you know how dangerous it is when he gets you.
Covington's not a striker, but the last couple rounds, he's kind of pouring it on Damian Maia. Again, not going to stop Damian Maia. This is 5 rounds. That would help. This is not a stackable main event, in my opinion. And even if you were going to stack it, that's just such a high price tag that, as you talked about, there are some other options on the card, also expensive, slightly less expensive, and I do like them more.
Tatiana Suarez, 9,300 on DraftKings, taking on Alexa Grasso, 6,900. Suarez is a minus 580 favorite, plus 440 on Grasso. This was minus 470, plus 375, probably about 3 hours before we came in to record this. And then when I looked back, I was just like, oh my God, Suarez jumped another 110. This thing opened at even money at Bet Online. Is they opened it up and it's just that thing got smashed hard. Someone probably got fired from that sports book. And then it went up to minus 240 and it was just I was like, all right, I don't have a 5 dimes account. So I was like, okay, I'm going to wait. Hopefully it's going to stick around there. And it's just it keeps getting bigger and bigger. I'm starting to see people make the play on Grasso. I can't, really falter them. I really like Suarez here. I think Suarez is able to secure the takedowns at will. And she's going to be the crux of my basically all my DraftKings teams, to be perfectly honest. I just see it's just such an easy takedown, advance. Maybe if Grasso gets back up, secure the takedown again. We've seen Grasso struggle against the likes of Felice Herrig and Ronda Marcos. I know that she won that Marcos fight. She got taken down 4 times, and it was about as close of a decision as you're ever going to see. I think Suarez rolls here. I like, wrestler, DraftKings Gold. It all sets up perfectly. She's going to be super chalk, so you're going to have to go high, though. I think she's going to be close to 60% owned. So you got to basically, as I said, you got to kind of pick your poison. This is the poison I'm picking.
Yeah, I'm sold on Suarez. I think she gets the victory. I think she's going to get the takedown. She's going to secure top position. And from there, I don't know how much.
She passes a lot, is the thing.
She does pass a lot.
And her last fight, she got 7 takedowns and 13 passes. She scored 135 points.
Yeah, and I know you're a believer now because prior to her last fight against Viviane Pereira, I remember you made a point. You're the thing with Pereira is that being 5'3", very low center of gravity.
Matter. She can take down anybody.
Man, it's ragdoll city. And I remember you tweeted to the likes of female Khabib, and it was pretty damn close. This girl will just take you down.
I follow her on Twitter.
She will just take you down, and she will ride you.
She's a big fan of Khabib, too.
Yeah, well, the model's there.
Yeah.
A lot of the time when you come back, you come from just an unbelievable base. You start working on the other things, and we've seen it time and time again. Fighters kind of fall in love with the striking a little bit. Fighters fall in love with the grappling a little bit. That they get away from the wrestling roots. They get away from the grappling roots, the striking roots, whatever, to try something different. In this case, she's a specialist. She knows what she does. This is a girl that almost qualified for the Olympic squad, if not for some health and some personal issues getting in the way. When she's on The Ultimate Fighter, man, she was awesome on The Ultimate Fighter. She shows you that she's big, she's strong, she's physical, she wants to take that, she gets it. And then the fact that she's trying to pass, the fact that she's trying to open up opponents, she seems to be getting getting a little bit better every time. The one thing is that she doesn't have a ton of experience because she's been sidelined due to injuries. But even so, this is a case with Alexa Grasso, taken down 4 times by Marcos, taken down twice by Felice Herrig. She's a good boxer. We know that. We know that from her time in Invicta. She's a young, adequate Mexican stand-up fighter. And she's got a great chin on her, she's got a great gas tank on her, but she struggles in the grappling department. Felice Herrig was a massive underdog when she came in against Grasso, because everyone's talking about this angle of the UFC wants to market Grasso, and Felice Herrig, she's cannon fodder. I mean, I've never been sold on her. She's a lot better. She turned out to be a lot better than I ever thought she'd be. But again, this is a layup for Alexa Grasso, and she not only gets taken down, she not only loses the grappling exchanges.
She lost on the feet.
She lost on the feet against a competent kickboxer in Felice Herrig, but not certainly a spectacular kickboxer. And then the fight with Marcos. Marcos is just grindy. I mean, she throws her strikes. She's very plodding. She doesn't have great footwork. She's not particularly all that fast, but she's in it to win it. She'll grind against you. She'll get the takedowns. Giving up 4 takedowns against her, that's an issue to me. Also, it's a lot easier to get up against Ronda Marcos than it is going to be to get up against Tatiana Suarez. So I think she gets the takedowns. If I'm playing her, and I'm going to have some lineups that do have her, I've decided to save some money in other areas, but if I'm going to play her, I want Grasso to get back up so she can go right back down.
Of course.
Because Suarez is not a dummy, and even if she gets back up, it's not, oh, she got back up. I want to conserve some energy.
Throw a few strikes and look for it again.
Vivian Pereira got back up. What do? You take them back down. 7 takedowns. I mean, that's exactly what you're looking for. And you're looking for passes on the ground. Grasso's not, I mean, at least with Pereira, she has a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu background. At least she's seemingly really not that bad on the ground at all. And I'm not saying Grasso's terrible on the ground, but she's got the ability to get back up and she's got the ability to defend. And that's all. And that's what you want when you have a wrestler that's going to go out there and do exactly that. So I think we're on the same page with Suarez. She should be able to get the victory done here.
She may be able to make it a long way in this division, too.
She
with
could
that
be.
skill.
She could be. Because the UFC is looking for people that they can get behind, that are legitimate challengers. At 115 pounds, I mean, it's not exactly the deepest talent pool. And this is a girl that, just stylistically speaking, she gives everybody trouble because nobody in the division can wrestle the way she can. But she's got to keep to that base. She's got to keep to her pedigree and do exactly what she's been doing. And every inclination from watching tape on her, every inclination from hearing interviews with her, she knows what she does. She does it best in the whole division, and that's what she should do here. So I'm always a tad bit worried, but when I'm worried about wrestlers who have that huge advantage, a lot of the time you think, well, can they take a punch? I think she can take a punch, A, but B, this is a 115-pound women fight. I don't think there's any concussive blows that are being thrown out here. As good as Grasso is standing, she's not flying knee standing.
When she has
she's
one
not
by
catch you with that one shot standing.
When she has one by TKO, it's been more like cuts and stuff like that.
Yeah, volume. I hit this girl 100 times and eventually.
And that's
she
assuming that
over.
she's able to stop the takedowns, and I'm willing to wager that she can.
Well, there's the other thing, right? She's a volume puncher, not a power puncher. Volume punchers, you're gonna lay yourself open for even just a moment in time for that single leg takedown. And when this girl gets on one leg, she's got a multitude of tricks. She can go to the low ankle pick. She can switch to the double. She can just get you with the single leg. She can pry you up against the cage and peel you down from there. She's got good trips. I'm sold on her. So let's just see what she can do here. And yeah, I'll be owning some shares.
Dominic Reyes, 9,000 on DraftKings, minus 255 on the betting line. Jared Cannonier, 7,200 plus 215. Who you got?
I could be talked into Jared Cannonier. Now, I like Dominic Reyes. Of course, I got his last fight wrong. Stupid Jeremy Kimball. I don't know why I always rally for Jeremy Kimball. Yeah, and he lets me down as much as he comes through for me. But all the same, the one thing that really does worry me about Dominic Reyes is that 7 of his 8 pro wins coming inside of the first round. That might seem like GPP dynamite, but as well, we don't know for sure what he'll look like when it gets to that second, gets to that third round. And Jared Cannonier gets knocked down in his debut by Sean Jordan.
Heavyweight.
Sean fucking Jordan, 265-pound Louisiana State linebacker, won a national title, backflips in the center of the cage. Yeah, Sean Jordan knocks you out. Not a big deal.
When's the distance against Kutalaba?
Dude, Kutalaba throws hard. Glover Teixeira is a top 10 guy in the division. He throws hard. And Jan Blachowicz, not a power puncher, but another top 10 guy. So he's fighting good company. Whereas when you get Reyes, he's fought Joachim Christensen, which that was playing T-ball here. We all knew it was going to happen.
That is a Paul Shaughnessy worst fighter in the UFC special right there.
Yeah, that's the kind of fight where you just know is going to end in the first round. The Kimball fight, I thought that if Reyes doesn't finish him in the first round, and Kimball's a guy that, should be half durable, that he would be able to take him in some deeper waters. Again, he finishes Kimball in the first round, so we don't know. So now you got Reyes, and he looks pretty. He's got the fight style. He's a big guy, 6'4". I think he's got a 5-inch height advantage on Jared Cannonier.
Same reach, though.
Same reach, both 77 inches. He's a big, tall guy. He's also a former football player, so we know he's athletic, and he's still young in his career. So he's still developing, trains out with Joe Stevenson, trains his ground game with Robert Drysdale. there's no reason to think that this guy won't continue to get better and better and get better. But again, I always go back to the fact that when you're undefeated, you need to get humbled at some point. And Jared Cannonier seems like one of those guys that might be able to just take that early onslaught and work his way back into it. He's got to throw a little more volume than he does. That's one of the reasons I'm actually avoiding Jared Cannonier. I don't mind him on the plus 215 money line because he's 2-1 as an underdog. I don't mind it. 7,200, very tempting, especially if we got Reyes goes out there and gets tired. Then maybe Cannonier takes him out late.
Cannonier hits with some power.
He does hit with some power, but he also tends to not throw a whole lot. He's not very exciting. He's got that big power, but he gets into these big lulls of inactivity where a guy that's much taller than him might be able to just outwork him. If Reyes uses the kicks, Reyes plays the range game. I know they have the same range, but he's still going to be able to play that range game, fight off his back foot, and just outwork him, then he could very well just get the decision. But it doesn't seem sexy to me. So the $9,300, I think that's very much priced on the fact that 7 of his 8 pro wins come in the side of the first round. That's what you're banking on. You're banking on that first round finish. But Cannonier's a lot more durable than people are giving him credit for. And I believe now he's back at the MMA lab in Arizona. So he might have one of those grindy type game plans where tire this guy out, pin this guy against the cage, work this guy a little bit. And then in the second and third round, when he starts dropping his hands, try to unleash some of that big power on him. So this is kind of a stay away fight for me personally.
Yeah, I hear that. Cannonier seems like the type of guy that maybe has a shot here.
$7,200.
7,200
that's
plus
worth a
two
play
plus
for
215 as well. Like he's got way more experience.
Yeah, it's just not priced.
We've seen
correct.
a lot more. We just don't know how good Dominic Reyes is, and he could be very good.
He could be.
Could just be classic case of a little bit too much too soon.
We'll have to see.
We got Diego Rivas taking on Guido Cannetti. Rivas 8,600 on DraftKings minus 155 on the betting line. Cannetti is 7,600 plus 135. You know what the old saying around here is?
Yeah, I know you're gonna say it too.
You can't spell
Cannetti
without can. How the hell does this guy keep getting fights?
I'll tell you why.
He's like 38 years old.
He's 38.
He's not your average quote unquote prospect. He gets starched every single time. He gets brought in to job out to people basically. Like that's what they're doing here. Rivas is like the only like natural Chilean on this card. Who do they bring in? Oh, Cannetti. We haven't given him a fight in a long time. Let's give it to him. I'm surprised about the line, to be honest. It's a little bit shorter than I thought. I think Rivas, he's pretty unproven prospect. Let's call a spade a spade. But like Cannetti, like maybe I underestimate him a little bit, but I don't see any redeeming qualities. I'm not gonna go out of my way and say he's the worst guy in the UFC or anything like that, because there are worse guys. But this guy, I can't get behind him on DraftKings 7,600. I'm never gonna pick a guy who I flat out don't see how I just don't really think how he wins in the UFC. And plus 135, it's almost kind of tempting. It's almost kind of scary because I think Rivas should be at the minus 200 level, to be honest.
Yeah, I think with your Rivas, the reason why he's coming in as a kind of a bigger favorite than he probably should be is exactly, they got one Chilean fighter on the card. This guy happens to land on the main card. How is that possible? Because he's there for a reason. He needs a guy that he can defeat, that he's still young, he's still unproven, he's still developing. Let's give him a guy that is a savvy veteran, 38 years old, got more fights than him, a guy that you can have a good performance against. But Cannetti is a wrecking machine, man, for about 5 minutes. He throws caution to the wind. This guy goes out there, he slings bombs, mostly hooks. The reason I still see him as being on the roster was he took a 2-year USADA ban, and that pretty much derailed him. I mean, he's 36 years old when he takes the ban. He was kind of at the tail end of his career. He got a late start in MMA. He got a late start in the UFC coming off tough Latin America. Finally gets to the UFC, has mixed results, but that 2-year ban, that pretty much crippled him. He fights it, and I guess as it turns out, tainted supplement. I don't buy that excuse most of the time, but in his case, apparently that's what it was. It was a tainted supplement that derailed him for the 2 years. He's got a current lawsuit going against the manufacturer of said supplement because it basically just derailed. He was already past his prime, presumably at 36.
Yeah.
Now
him
coming
2 years
back
of fights and fight purses.
money that you could have made. He owns a gym in Argentina, and I feel like you're the only UFC veteran in this town. People are going to be naturally drawn to your gym, and now you can't even fight. It's a bad look. It's a black eye. They just took your reputation and your name, ran it through the mud a little bit. But now you come back at 38. He took one fight after his USADA, after the suspension, and looked not very good. Gets knocked out, gets dropped. The Cannetti of old was go in there for 5 minutes and give you hell. And if he can hurt you, maybe you're not the same guy in the second and third round, then maybe he can fight his way back in, or maybe he can just knock you out in that first round. But that game plan doesn't really work. And I think with Rivas, he's young enough, he's durable enough that he should be able to just at least take that opening onslaught, and then from there, Cannetti should falter away. The UFC's in Chile. They're there, they want to promote the sport. They want to grow the sport. They've got this guy on the main card. I don't love those matchups where it's like the UFC's got an added interest in this guy, so he's foregone conclusion going to win. But this is obviously what the fight is set up to be. They've said, okay, who's the worst guy in the division? Maybe guys potentially worse than Guido Cannetti, but Cannetti's at that bottom of that list. So if we're gonna get, and Cannetti's super exciting. Like, I've never been in a bad fight, not a boring fight, maybe a bad performance for him himself, but never a boring fight. So let's rally up the hometown crowd. Let's get them super fired up because they're probably gonna fall asleep during the main event. Let's get some adrenaline boost into them prior to heading down later onto the card. And Rivas should be able to do that. Again, he is young, he is sort of unproven, but this seems like a fight set up for him to get the victory in. And I will be playing him on the money line at minus 155. The 8,600, it's not that I am not playing him, because the way to beat Cannetti, you're probably going to finish this guy. Probably going to happen near the end of the first round or in that second round. So the 8,600, he should be able to get that price value with him. I don't mind him. But when I'm making the mock drafts for myself personally, I've just decided to go with slightly different angles. And I can see, again, playing him on some teams like I am playing Tatiana Suarez on some teams. But he's not one of my lock guys, even though I do think he gets the job done.
Andrea KGB Lee, 9,200 on DraftKings, minus 330 on the betting line. Veronica Macedo, 7,000 plus 270. Let's face it, Andrea Lee, not that the picture that is showing right now would give you any indication. She's the typical type of pretty blonde-haired girl that the UFC likes to market. The minus 330 here, I think, is getting completely out of hand. We've seen her falter at the Invicta level. She's not a bad fighter. She's an okay fighter. Macedo's no world beater or anything. Her record at 5-1-1 is a little bit inflated. Most of the people that she's beaten have been complete garbage. But I think this fight could be a little bit more competitive than the lines are suggesting, and I just don't know how much on DraftKings Andrea Lee really scores in this spot. What's your take?
I think Andrea Lee has the potential to score big. I am going to favor her here. She was someone that was, in my books, untrustworthy. I think when you talk about her faltering at the Invicta level, she lost to Roxanne Modafferi. That's always a gigantic red flag. I watched that fight. She cleanly lost. And she's also out of a gym called Karate Mafia in Louisiana. They don't have a sterling track record outside of maybe Matt Schnell that came out of that gym that eventually went to American Top Team anyways. That MTV show Cage back in the day, it centers around Karate Mafia, and it is just a small little gym in Louisiana. They're not known for producing high-end talent, and she has been very loyal to them. She's a pretty girl. She comes from a kickboxing base, or kickboxing background, I should say. KGB nickname. She wears the hammer and the sickle on her fight gear. Obviously, prior to coming to Reebok, obviously.
She wears a cowboy hat, calls herself KGB.
Well, she's from Louisiana, so the cowboy hat is obviously
What's the
there.
KGB all about, though?
She must have Russian in her, and I think KGB Lee, it just kind of floats good.
Sure.
So I think that's what it is. She's also a
sweet nickname.
Yeah, she's also a mother, so I think that when you look back at her fight history, maybe her time wasn't centered and focused 100% on fighting at a certain period of her career. But this girl is firing on all cylinders right now. I mean, if you look at her last number of performances in Invicta, she looks the part. She looks very good. She's had experience.
She failed the drug test.
She failed the drug test. That was out of competition. So, well, no, she failed the drug test a while ago. And then I think
she was supposed to get admitted into the
and
USADA pool, but then because she had failed, she had to have like the 6 month
Yeah, you have to be in the talent pool or the testing pool, I should say, for a certain amount of time. That's kind of what hindered her, is that she had a failed drug test from a while ago. So I don't think this is a fighter that was juicing, or the fighter that is juicing, it might be shot because she's now off of it, and I'm not super worried about that. The thing is that I think people look at the price tag and look at the fact that Andrea Lee is this pretty blonde-haired girl that the UFC is probably trying to market, and she's unproven at this level. This is her official UFC debut, and the price tag just doesn't make sense. But I think when you look at Veronica Macedo, she's coming down from 135. She obviously fought Ashley Evans-Smith at 135, so that was going to be a size discrepancy. But she looked tiny, dude.
She was
tiny,
super
tiny,
small
tiny.
against. Yeah, but Ashley Evans-Smith is a big 135.
She's a big 135, and this fight's at 125 pounds. But Andrea Lee used to fight around that like 115 mark and has trouble making the weight. She comes up to 125. She's filled out very good. She's a volume puncher. She'll lay it on you. Macedo doesn't really want to grapple. She's a Taekwondo black belt. She comes from a karate background initially.
She wants to fight off of her back foot. She's
wants
pretty
to fight
quick.
She wants to fight off her back foot.
Speed will be the only advantage that she has here.
The speed will be the advantage. If she can outpoint somebody like Andrea Lee, who's going to be coming forward and try to land those punches, then yeah, absolutely. Will she catch Andrea Lee with something off guard and hurt her? I don't think so. Again, I don't know that she really has this type of power that I would find necessary. She's also had big lulls of inactivity. I mean, that Ashley Evans-Smith fight was a long-ass time ago.
True.
She's something like 23 years old. And to me, it's not that I wouldn't bet someone that young. It's that you'd have to be spectacular in that young. You'd have to be like one of these prospects that's undeniable. This person's got the goods. This person has advanced. We're going to talk about Brendan Moreno a little bit down. At 23 years old, he's shown something, right? Whereas Macedo hasn't shown anything. She had fought one fighter with a winning record prior to coming to the UFC, where she got thrashed by Ashley Evans-Smith. Now, I know Evans-Smith's a wrestler. I know Evans-Smith's a lot bigger than her. But Ashley Evans-Smith is not spectacular.
No.
She thrashed her, dude. So I think if you're Andrea Lee, you can take this fight to the ground. You can also keep this fight standing where you are competent. You can just out-volume this girl. You should have a little bit of a size advantage, even though she's the fighter coming down in weight. I think everything's there for her to get this victory. The price tag is a little bit big, but the way she goes out there and the way she has that type of output, it's completely possible that she's going to be able to just swarm Macedo, hurt Macedo, put Macedo down. I mean, this is a girl that just keeps coming. Go watch some of her prior fights. She's got a great gas tank, and she's got a killer instinct. She smells the blood in the water. She will pounce on you. She's fought grizzly veterans. She's fought up-and-comers. She's actually built up a resume. It's like when we were talking last week, and I know it's a terrible example, but that Marcus Perez versus
Bogdanovich.
Yeah, sorry, Bogdanovich, James Bogdanovich. Bogdanovich is one of those guys that had fought in the regional scene and then jumped into the UFC. Whereas Marcus Perez had at least fought good guys in the regional scene, built up a resume, and they hadn't made the jump. KGB Lee, she was supposed to be in the UFC already. So you have a contract. They basically say, hey, you can't fight for a little bit because of this prior drug test. So sit on the sidelines, but you're motivated. You know that debut's coming. You're grinding. You're getting in the gym. You're trying to get better. Macedo is not on a main card. Any card in the UFC. This girl does not land on a main card unless her dance partner is the reason they're on the main card. And that's the reason that she's here. Is Andrea Lee is somebody that she has a fun style. She's a pretty girl. They want to market her. I get all that. That's why it's in this situation. Macedo's pretty
South
too.
America, though.
She's pretty too, but I just don't see her getting this victory here. So again, you've got
I don't really
the young,
see her getting the
unproven
victory.
athlete.
I'm more or less saying that it's kind of a fade DraftKings wise for me.
Fade DraftKings wise, sure, yeah.
And like
I guess I can see
the
it.
330 just seems wide to me.
Yeah. Hopefully it comes down a little
unproven.
bit.
Somebody who loses Roxanne Modafferi.
A long time ago. And Roxanne Modafferi is savvy, especially on the ground.
Fair. All right, we got Vicente Luque, 8,800, taking on Chad Laprise, who can be out for 7,400. Minus 210 Luque, plus 175 Laprise. Who you got?
I mean, this one hurts me. I'm a Laprise guy, obviously. We followed him for a long time. We support the guy. At 155 pounds, he's the #1 guy in Canada. At 170 pounds, he's still a top 5 guy in the country. I guess he was having... You know when you meet somebody for the first time and you're used to seeing them on TV, you're always like, that guy's way smaller than I thought. Dude, Laprise was so much bigger than I thought. Like, I kind of get why he couldn't make 55. It was obviously taking a big strain on him. Very technical striker, comes from a long pan kickboxing background. A guy that had worked a long time at Team Tompkins with guys like Jesse Ronson. Phenomenal strikers. I like Chad Laprise. Working at TriStar, and now he splits his time between TriStar. Spends a little time like the Parabellum area. Still spends some time Chatham, London area. Kind of splits his training around. He's a likable guy, super friendly guy that you can get behind. He's got that kind of style where he'll be able to hit Luque because Luque is very hittable. But in that same conversation, doesn't seem like Chad Laprise really moves his head all that much. There was a time where I thought he pivoted very well when he was throwing kicks. He pivoted very well from get to shoulder. But at the UFC level, when you're taking on elite strikers, he is hittable. If he's taking on lower echelon guys, he's going to chew them up because he comes from a strong pedigree. He works out with good guys. But now that he's moving up the rankings...
Or one-dimensional guys like a Galore Bufando.
Yeah, Galore Bufando. I mean, we just knew what was going to come out of that fight. Bufando is super unproven and an older guy who's just all fast twitch muscle, got to finish you as quick as possible. Laprise is going to be able to find a win to pick those guys apart and chip away at them. He's going to probably be able to hit Luque, and how Luque is going to be able to deal with that, I would think good, because even though he gets nailed a lot and he marks up, the guy does got a good chin. He's training with what is the Black Zillions. It's Hard Knocks 365 now.
Yep.
He trains with just elite level striking coaches, elite level training partners, elite level grapplers and wrestlers. The gym's just a fantastic gym. And that's not saying Laprise doesn't have the same situation. It's just I really do feel like the 12-6-1 record that Luque has is just super misleading. The guy is very talented. He's better on the ground than Chad Laprise. He's got a nasty Darce choke. And I feel like he'll find a way to get the win. But this is a fight that's dicey to me. This is a fight that at 8,800, I need him to knock out Laprise or choke out Laprise. I don't see him submitting Laprise. The knockout, it's potentially there, but you're going to have to really hurt him, get his attention, take him to some deeper waters. And I'm not willing to bank on that 100%. I'm going to go with Vicente Luque. I think that he's a sharp, crisper striker. But again, if it's a striker versus striker, then anything can happen.
If he gets into the mat, you got to figure he's got a decent advantage here.
Yeah, I would want him to have like that.
But he doesn't have the greatest wrestling from what we've seen.
No, I would want him to have like that Francisco Trinaldo game plan where it's I'm going to hit this guy, hurt this guy, take him down, get the victory there. That was the only time with Chad Laprise that you've seen him noticeably get smoked out of the water. Outside of that, he's always competitive. He's always in these fights. But if you can hurt this guy, get him discombobulated, get him off balance, then get him to the ground, you can, you might be able to mount him. You might be able to get to side control. You might be able to just pound him out for that TKO. Or, like I said, this guy's got an awesome anaconda. He's got an awesome Darce. If he can get a hold of your neck, then it's maybe potential that he'd be able to get the submission. I don't see the submission happening, but I do see him landing something on Chad Laprise, getting Chad Laprise hurt, and then from there getting him to work. So I'm going to go with Vicente Luque to get the job done here. But this is a dicey fight. I can see avoiding it. The 8,800, I don't love it. The minus 210, I don't mind it, even though, again, it is 2-1. But my pick would be Vicente Luque to get the job.
Yeah, I'm taking Luque as well, but
Chad Laprise is no joke. He's no rollover.
Chad Laprise isn't a terrible guy to sneak into the odd GPP, because if he gets a win, we're talking about being potentially dicey, potentially close. He gets a win at 7,400. You go up and down this card. It's hard finding guys that you're just like, this is a high quality fighter at such a cheap price. Usually in most of these fights, when I guess Maia is a high quality fighter. But you look at some of these other fighters that are down in that price range, and it's like, I don't know if they're, top 15 potential types of guys. So.
Yeah, when I look at it to this point, what I think is Usman Maia, well, there's a style clash that favors Usman. And with Tatiana Suarez and Grasso, there's a style clash that favors Suarez. With Cannonier Reyes, it's like maybe they're both strikers, but the unknown of that being only out of first round one time in your entire career, that's a big unknown for me. That's something you can try to pursue. Guido Cannetti, yeah, again, same thing. But this is a fight that's well matched. This is a fight that is very close. Both guys are going to be able to do what the other guy does well. That, the underdog could definitely have his day here. And at the price tag of $7,400 for Chad Laprise, could he hit Luque and knock him out? It's been done before.
Could he outpoint him? It's very possible.
Could he outpoint him? Could he tire this guy out and find those openings? Is he faster off his back foot and a better counterpuncher? I actually do believe he's a better counterpuncher. And he is better off his back foot.
So he's not a dead man walking.
No, he's not a dead man walking. There's some merit to Chad Laprise. And for that reason, you got to keep your eyes open.
We got Zach Cummings taking on Michel Prazeres. 8,400 for Zach Cummings, 7,800 for Prazeres, minus 140 Cummings, plus 120. Zach Cummings has fought as high as 205 pounds, to my knowledge at least. He spent the bulk of his earlier part of his career at 185. Now they're at 170. Prazeres, he kind of fought at 155. The guy missed weight basically every single time, but he has made 155 pounds. Guy's a little short, absolute tank.
Yeah.
But because of what happened in his last fight, missing weight by 6 pounds or whatever, and he had done this multiple times, there's like, enough's enough. You got to go up. But they didn't get him to go up. Sometimes they'll get you to go up, and they'll put you up against somebody who also used to fight at 155 pounds. Somebody who's a smaller welterweight. Like Zach Cummings is a big welterweight. I think we're going to see a big disparity between the two of these guys at the weigh-ins. I think it's gotta be at least. And I like Prazeres, and he's been a money chain for me down the line. I usually pick him all the time, but this could be a lot of work. He's taking on a super grindy, tough wrestler. The I don't know if he still trains there, but the Glory MMA Fitness guys, they kind of have this like awkward style. Everything's ugly and difficult, and it's a grinding affair. And that's what Zach Cummings brings to the table. This line, I've kind of seen it bouncing from like close to even up to like minus 170, and I think it's nestling here around the right price that it is at. It's hard for me to pick against Prazeres, but I think that size is finally going to matter. That's the advantage that Prazeres has had over all of these other guys. He's been able to go in there and maul people, and now he's not going to have that. His wrestling isn't all that great. He's super strong. And wrestling, we always talk about, kind of favors the shorter guy. But, like, I don't know if his technical wrestling is going to really help him, because I don't think his technical wrestling is all that great. The thing is that he just had a power advantage over everybody at 155 pounds, and he was shorter, so he was able to get these fights to the mound, or to the ground. Pick here is Zach Cummings, and I think finally, all those cheating ways of Michel Prazeres is going to catch up with him.
Well, first and foremost, you talk about ugly but effective for Zach Cummings. Pat, bring up the board here for a second. We talk about Zach Cummings and ugly. Look at this. Jesus Christ, this fucking guy.
Cue ball.
Yeah, but he is super effective, man. I am actually a Zach Cummings fan. I think you...
We always Cummings has been kind of one of our guys for years now, too, though.
Cummings has been one of our guys for a long time. When he loses, he's losing to top 5 and top 10 guys. I mean, the Gunnar Nelson fight, he didn't look bad until eventually he got that snap down and got submitted by Gunnar Nelson. Not the end of the world. The Santiago Ponzinibbio fight, Ponzinibbio is a great fighter. So again, I don't really take too much away from that. The fact is that if your game plan is to come in and try to grind with this guy, he can grind with the best of them. He's got a decent amount of power.
He's got a good gas tank.
Yeah, he knocks out Dominic Steele. Dominic Steele's got a terrible chin, but all the same, 43-second knockout. You knock out a guy that's a big, tough, physical guy. That's got to be something. The ground game's there. He himself is another guy that if you give him a hold of your neck, he will find a way to choke you out. Got good rear nakeds, got good darce chokes, got a good game. His wrestling, that's kind of where he comes out of. You nailed it too when you said that he's fought as high as 205 pounds. He fought for the MFC organization against Ryan Jimmo, 5-round title fight at 205 pounds. Furthermore, he's got that Strikeforce fight with Tim Cannetti. Again, he loses 185 pounds. When you see him at 170, he has got some size to him. The flip side to that is Prazeres has had one single fight in the UFC at 170 pounds. That was his debut against Paulo Thiago, in which he lost. He has not shown to be a very effective guy at 170 pounds, because your whole game is built around the fact that you are so strong at 155 pounds.
Built like a tank, right?
Yeah, but it's like, oh, dude, he's on a big winning streak right now. Okay, now, who are some of the guys that he's beaten? Well, J.C. Cottrell and Josh Berkman. And the Gilbert Burns win, there's a good win for him, but there was a version of Gilbert Burns that got really fucking tired and was able to get out-muscled by a guy that's big and strong like Michel Prazeres. His last couple of fights, he's consistently missing a little bit worse. I think he goes from like 158 to 159. Last fight against Des Green, 161. He's just missing weight. The UFC finally says, hey, enough is enough. You've missed weight in 3 of your last 4 fights. You're jumping up a weight class, and you're in the doghouse, buddy. You're on a long winning streak. Show us something.
This was a guy who was basically showing up for 155 fights. Like, on fight night, he was probably 180 pounds.
Yeah, of course.
Like,
and you can't make the joke with, like, the whole Mackenzie Dern, like, oh, man, she's so fat. It's like, no, he's just got 7 pounds of extra muscle on him. The guy is completely shredded. But remember, we always used to say the mold for those guys was there. And you had, obviously, Gleison Tebow, the godfather of being massively big and stocky guy, an overpowering guy. Masaranduba, geez, same thing. Here's a guy that's very short, stocky, powerful guy, good kickboxing, good enough to keep the fight standing and beat you standing, but also he just wants to wear on you and grind you out. But all those guys are getting older, and as they've gotten older, and as the USADA drug testing plan has been in effect, maybe they're just not as good as they have been in prior times.
Prazeres is looking better than ever.
Well, Prazeres is 37 years old.
At 155 pounds.
But he was never at 155 pounds. He was at catchweight.
He was at 161, and his opponents were at 155.
Yeah, Des Green probably shouldn't have even taken the fight, but he's a warrior, and he's a fighter, and he came to do what he's there to do, and that's fight this guy. But again, you've got Des Green's a good grappler, and Prazeres is just a little bit stronger. He's able to outmuscle him.
Yep.
With Zach Cummings, he's gonna, if he fails to get those takedowns, and this is a striking battle, Zach Cummings is way bigger than him, man.
A massive reach advantage.
Oh, dude, he's got like a 7 or 8 inch advantage.
Prazeres has like 67-inch reach. Like,
yeah,
there's
man.
I don't think there's anybody else potentially at 170 pounds that has that short of
He's
arms.
got 7 or 8 inches in the reach department, but also I believe he's 6 foot versus Prazeres is 5'8". So he's gonna have additional 4 inches.
I don't even know
height.
if I believe 5'8". It could be.
He's
like
probably 5'7".
Yeah.
You know, he's one of those guys that probably tells girls at the club he's 5'10".
Yeah.
But we all know what's
Nobody's
going
pulling
on
out a tape
here.
measure.
Exactly. So he'll wing big overhand hooks. I think like because he's got such a short reach, he's not going in there trying to jab. He's not really trying to set up that straight right. He's just basically looking to wing those hooks to get close enough to lock you up. If he locks you up, that's generally where he gets the takedown. When he gets the takedown, he could be very slow and lethargic on you and just suck that energy right out of you because he himself doesn't have a great gas tank. So he's not looking to push the pace. If this stays standing, Zach Cummings probably just outpoints him standing, which I'm okay with. If this is a grinding cage battle, which Prazeres likes, a much bigger guy is going to be able to physically do something
You're
about
going to get tired trying to push around that extra weight.
Of course, and the last time I saw this guy fail to get takedowns and completely gas out was against Kevin Lee. Kevin Lee, better wrestler, obviously. Kevin Lee, pretty big 155er. But again, he fails to get the takedowns.
Lazaro.
Vladimir Lazaro is a striker, right? So the only time that he's looked good against a grappler was against Gilbert Burns. And in the Gilbert Burns fight, the takedown wasn't really readily available for either guy, so he's able to just outpoint him. The only one thing I don't like about Zach Cummings that's causing me to second guess myself on Cummings a little bit is that last fight against Thiago Alves, I'm all over the Cummings train here. I think he's going to get the job done. He gets sick prior to weigh-ins, bails out of the fight basically at the last minute, and I don't know if that's weight cut related. I don't know if there's an injury that's hindering him there. He himself is also 33, but coming from that grinding base and that grinding background and working as hard as he has, is there something? Am I going to get the version of Zach Cummings that I have up in my head? That big, strong, powerful guy that matches up perfectly against a Prazeres. If you're flashy and technical, you're going to be faster than him, you're going to beat him. But if you're slow and grinding like he is, and he has that size advantage, this is where he makes his money. This is where he gets wins over guys. And I feel like that's what he's going to do here. But the question mark for me is he going to be the guy that I expect him to be? Or am I going to have depleted Zach Cummings, used to fight at 185, used to fight at 205, now he's having trouble making the weight, versus Prazeres, who at 170 probably doesn't have a tough weight cut at all.
And this will help Prazeres' gas tank. The one issue that he has, and that has kind of repeated itself over the years, is that he doesn't have a gas tank.
And the fight's in South America, right?
But who knows? Prazeres could come in at he could pull an Anthony Johnson here and show up 8 pounds overweight for 170.
He most definitely
crazier things have happened.
Yeah, definitely. And the last little thing that I might think of when I think about this fight for ways for Prazeres is that because it's kind of a new commission, a lot of the times that those singular takedowns with no damage done on the ground, but you got the takedown, and those he hasn't pinned up against the cage, he's doing better work against the cage. Those he ate 3 shots, but he landed 1 big shot, and that big shot was the most important punch of the round. Sometimes newer, less trained commissions will favor that. Maybe they'll favor the South American guy in Prazeres that's going to wing the big punches and potentially try to complete a couple of takedowns and hold him up against the cage. So I do have Zach Cummings, the 8,400. I'm going to try to play that on a cash game team. And as far as the minus 140, again, I like it, but this is not my favorite pick on the card. Love him. There are some paths to victory for Prazeres that make me worried.
Alexandra Pantoja takes on Brandon Moreno. We have 8,200 for Pantoja. 8,000 for Moreno, minus 125 on the line, to plus 105 for Moreno. Rematch from the Ultimate Fighter.
Yeah.
Brandon Moreno was the
16 seed.
16 seed going on up against the number 1 seed, and Moreno, that's kind of where he made his mark. He ended up losing that fight, but he put on a performance, and he just came out like shot out of a cannon in that first round. And he put the hurt on Pantoja. It was close on the feed. Both guys were kind of getting hurt. And then Pantoja reached into the bag of tricks in round 2. Once he gets the fight to the ground, he was able to control from there and got the submission finish. It's interesting that it's minus 125 plus 105. It was close in the first round, so I guess they're just saying this is a close fight unless Pantoja gets to the ground. I've got to go with the fact that Pantoja was even able to, until he started getting tired at the end of round 3 against our boy Justin Ortiz, who we picked Ortiz in that fight because he's the scramble master. He was able to put Ortiz in some real dicey situations early in that fight. And I think Pantoja, just because Moreno has improved a lot since leaving that show, I think Pantoja, you got to say, has improved a lot too. Lost to a scramble master like him, but if Pantoja gets this to the mat again, I got to give him the nod. 8,200. Pantoja gets to the ground. He's probably going to try to get to the ground. He knows that on the feet, it's probably super competitive. And minus 125 almost feels trappy, but I got to go with Pantoja to basically repeat history. What's your take?
I'm actually going to go with Brandon Moreno. I think Brandon Moreno on the Ultimate Fighter, young kid, very young, kind of inexperienced, hasn't fought top-level guys, and then he shows us in that show that, hey, this is a 16 seed guy. They obviously put him as a 16 seed because they hadn't seen anything promising out of him. Pantoja, he's a former RFA champ. He's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. He's also young. He's improving. Okay, Pantoja's the number 1 seed the entire show. But Pantoja didn't really impress me all that much on that show. He doesn't win it despite being the number 1 seed. And in the finals against Eric Sheldon, where he won a split decision, should have been unanimous, wasn't exactly the most spectacular performance for him. I feel like Pantoja, the version that we had in RFA, the version that I saw in the show, is kind of still the same guy that's around now. Whereas Brendan Moreno has made improvements. He's fought in good guys. He's had those humbling losses to a guy like Sergio Pettis, where you're in a main event situation and all eyes are on you. But he's also fought just a better level of talent, in my opinion, than Pantoja. So that's one of the reasons I'm kind of thinking the last fight, somewhat competitive, definitely competitive, until it hits the ground and then Pantoja has his way. But now, a couple years removed from that time, Pantoja, again, probably still better on the ground, but he's going to have to get that fight with Moreno to the ground. If Moreno keeps his fight standing, then I feel like he's going to have the advantage. I feel like he's a little bit better of a striker. He's just certainly got to avoid getting taken down. But for me, something that's super important, oh yeah, and then with the Dustin Ortiz fight, we sat here and we broke down the fact that Ortiz is a scramble master, and in scrambling, tends to give up his back a lot. That's the only thing I saw out of Pantoja, was he got the back a couple times. He didn't do
very much with it.
With the back. Shit. He body locked him and he tried to hold him into place. As soon as Ortiz was able to scramble up and get up, or the ref would just say, okay, I've had enough of this, let's stand this fight back up. As soon as Ortiz got at range, he just was able to chip away at him, out kickbox him, be the quicker guy. Pantoja is not a striker first guy. Yes, in the first fight, he's able to land some good shots, but I think the consensus out of that first round was that Moreno was the better striker. Now we have a better version of Moreno. So that's one thing. Now, flip side, another thing with Moreno is that he spent a lot of time now in Las Vegas. He's at the Performance Institute. He's working out with guys like Joseph Benavidez on the regular. So I truly do feel like the best of Moreno is yet to come. He's a young developing prospect, but he should get consistently a little bit better, a little bit better, a little bit better. Now, finally, he's getting ready to take on Ray Borg, right?
Yeah.
Ray Borg has the fight gets rescheduled, okay? Then Ray Borg is a motherfucking trolley thrown through a window and gets some glass in his eye. So that fight gets canceled. So then they have the rematch. The fight is finally scheduled on this card. And, all support to Borg, family issues. Hopefully everything gets resolved. Shout out to him. Fight gets pushed back again. So he's been training for Ray Borg specifically for 5 or 6 months now.
He's going to be
what
ready
was
to
Ray Borg's game plan going to be?
Takedowns.
Right. That's why he's in Las Vegas working out with good grapplers. Ray Borg was not going to stand with you. He was going to pile drive you to the ground. You had basically a 5-month training camp for Ray Borg. Now Ray Borg's out. Pantoja is coming in on short notice. Pantoja's game plan, well, I beat this guy once already, I'll take this fight. But his gas tank's not particularly all that good. If he can get the back, then yeah, he can make something happen. But I feel like he's going to have one solid round in him. He might win that first round, and Moreno might very well be able to just work his way back into this fight. This might be like Kelvin Gastelum, Jacare, where the first round, Jacare gets the takedown. Yep. Jacare owns him. Kelvin Gastelum survives.
Good live betting opportunity.
Huge live betting opportunity. And I had Jacare, by the way, but Kelvin Gastelum won that fight. I know that might not be the most popular opinion.
I thought Kelvin
a lot of
won
people
as
think
well.
Jacare won.
I thought, but I also threw a live bet on Kelvin at the end of round 1.
Dude, same thing here. I was like, geez.
Which saved my night from all the other bad bets.
No, it wasn't that. I didn't have a terrible night.
Roberson.
Roberson shit the bed, no doubt. Jack Hermanson coming back. Fuck yes. Good
that
times
was really
already.
bad for my DraftKings.
Oh, that was good times.
Everything was coming up, Paul, until late, and then after that late tease turnaround, that was.
But what I'm saying here is Pantoja's only 27. He's not exactly old and shot. He's not exactly Jacare, 38 years old. But what I'm saying is that because he's short notice, is that he should be able to have a good first round. He might be able to complete a takedown in the first round. He might be able to get that back take. But if he doesn't submit Moreno I don't think is going to tire. Not in this position, not in the I've been training for Ray Borg for 5 months. I know what the game plan is. Game plan doesn't switch here. He's not all of a sudden getting a dynamic striker. He's getting a guy that I think he can handle on the feet, that's going to want to get this fight to the ground, keep this fight standing, make this guy pay, beat him up. I think he gets the decision. I think he squeaks it out. Because it's a near even money fight, I'd love to say, here's the dog play, but like plus 105 did, it's even at best. The $8,000, I could see having some shares.
Flyweight, so they're high-paced fights.
They're
these two guys
fights.
There's gonna be a lot of action going on here. There could be a lot of scrambles. Pantoja, if he does get to the mat, Moreno's getting back up, and then when they're down there's a lot of passes and transitions. Like these flyweight fights sometimes can be good. It's like when you think about Elliott versus Luis Smolka way back when, where Elliott basically broke the DraftKings database with like 175 points in that game. It's like a fight similar to this, where you got kind of two guys. Like one guy's gonna be trying to get back up, but like Moreno's no slouch on the ground. If he's getting ready
you're right.
If he's getting ready for Ray Borg, like there's gonna be scrambles. It's gonna be probably a pretty high-paced fight. You may have talked me over towards Moreno. This was always a close fight.
I agree.
Top to bottom for me to call, but I don't know. Maybe a little bit of exposure to both. Finally, we got Polyana Botelho taking on Sierra Kondo. Botelho is 8,700 on DraftKings, 7,500 for Kondo, minus 165, plus 145 respectively. Who do you got?
This is a dog play for me. I'm going to go with Sierra Kondo. This is a fight that comes down to game plan, and whoever puts their best foot forward, essentially, can get the victory here. I'm going to go with Kondo, the reason being with Polyana Botelho. She had come off a 2-year-long layoff prior to her fight with Pearl Gonzalez. I believe she had a broken hand that sidelined her for nearly 2 years. Didn't get surgery on it, broke it again, whatever. Not the case. Is that the Pearl Gonzalez fight? Pearl Gonzalez fights the worst game plan in history. She seems to be winning the striking exchanges. She's chewing up that lead leg with the kicks. She's got inside kicks, outside kicks, not bad.
And she
her
just
hands
starts going for takedowns. I was actually watching that just before we came on here.
She just, not even takedowns. She's just looking to pin her up against the fence.
Botelho defended like 9 of 9 takedown attempts, but like they were all just like holed up against the fence, and there was nothing going on.
Terrible takedown
I didn't really see much from Botelho, to be perfectly honest.
No, but this is what I took from him. Is Botelho she won that fight because she's just landing those elbows. They call them Josh Barnett elbows. But essentially, the
Travis Brown elbows.
Yeah, sorry. Well, he knocked out Josh Barnett with them. The Travis Brown elbows. You're trying to get deep on a double leg. It's not going to happen. Your head's exposed.
Hitting the side of the ear.
And that's all she does. She just elbows Pearl Gonzalez. Eventually, Pearl Gonzalez gets tired. She lands a takedown on Pearl Gonzalez, but it was nothing notable. It was nothing significant in my opinion. So the Suri Kondo fight, back to the Pearl Gonzalez fight. When it's at distance, Gonzalez is winning, and to me, Botelho looked kind of clunky. She doesn't seem super athletic. She doesn't seem super fast. She's big, she's tall, she's physical for the weight class, and she does come from a kickboxing background, but she didn't really seem to be that refined standing. She also only throws 64 significant strikes, or lands 64 significant strikes.
Well, most of that fight took place just against the cage with nothing really happening.
But she doesn't land anything at distance. She lands everything because it's against the cage, and there's my opening to land some elbows and some short punches at a couple knees here and there. But she only lands the one takedown. She only tries for the one takedown. She didn't want to grapple with Pearl Gonzalez. That was Pearl Gonzalez's choice. She wanted to stand at distance and have a kickboxing match. And had it stayed at distance and been a kickboxing match, then who's to know what was going to happen? It's just Gonzalez had a terrible game plan. Suri Kondo, even though her last fight with Jun or something, Chan Min-jun, even though it ends up being a split decision, she landed like 125 significant strikes.
For 97.5 points.
97.5 fights. Fight goes the distance. And she doesn't have a great third round.
They called it a split decision, but it wasn't.
No, because she was up 2 rounds. And even though Jian comes on near the end of the second round, I thought the second round was definitely Kondo. That's 2 rounds for Kondo. Third round, close round. She just throws the entire time. She's got good kicks. She should be able to hit Botelho with those kicks from the outside. She's got better hands. She throws better combinations. She's 13-1 in professional kickboxing. That's where she makes her money. She's a former pro wrestler as well, but that's besides the point. Is that when she was in Japan, when she was competing for organizations like Crush, they have a good kickboxing scene over there, and she was doing well. So now she comes to the UFC. If Botelho, like I said, this is why whoever has the better game plan is going to win this fight. Botelho is way bigger than her. She's 5'8" versus only 5'4" for Kondo. She's got that 4 inches in the height department. She used to fight at 125 pounds. Kondo, not exactly the biggest 115er. So if she uses that size and fights her the way Pearl tried to fight her, pin her up against the cage. Don't let her stay at distance. Then she can win this fight. She gets the fight to the ground. Presumably, she's better on the ground. But she didn't want to grapple with Gonzalez. She wanted to kickbox, and she didn't look good when she was kickboxing. No. So if she comes into this fight and says, geez, my last fight was a total stinker, I want to keep this fight standing and give the fans a show, and this stays kickboxing match, Kondo should outpoint her. Kondo should throw the more volume, land the better shots, and just do enough. And again, final point on this, is yes, Kondo's 5'4" versus the 5'8" for her. Her only pro loss for Polyana Botelho is against Viviana Pereira, who's 5'3". So she has actually struggled against shorter fighters in the past. I know that's a grappler and this is a striker, but it's not to say she's just so much bigger she'll find a way to get the win here. I think that Kondo will be able to do enough to get the victory. And if you want a greasy theory, because we didn't do one in the last episode,
I do.
Don't bet people from Nova União. Just don't do it, man.
Yeah,
they are shot, Paul. Shot.
Barrow.
Jose
Leites.
Aldo, Dallas Leites, Claudia Gadelha. A lot of them tried to leave, still presumably shot. And, Francimar Barroso. Like, the gym is on a massive...
Claudia Gadelha left because...
Barao left. Claudia Gadelha left.
It's over.
Like, people are thinking to themselves...
End of an era.
End of an era. They got some huge $1 million new facility. And Hakrin Diaz. Like, they're all shot, Paul. Now, they can win on the Brazilian regional. And they can win when Pro Gonzalez is the worst game plan. But I'm not excited like you. There was a time where it was Nova União versus Japanese MMA fighter. I'm taking Nova União. But those days are over. She needs to get the fight to the ground. And because I feel like she's not going to do that, I'm going to have to go with Kondo to outpoint her. The plus 145, love it. Give me the dog money. I'll take it. The $7,500, that's going to help me save in other areas. I think that the 97.5, just on a pure striking battle that went to 3 rounds, get me that. Get me 80 points. You're going to pay your value. Get me 75 points. I'd still be happy with it. But the sky's the limit in that she could score 100 points versus a $7,500 payoff, and I'd be super happy with that. So give me Siri Kondo to get the job done, and that's one of my value plays.
Couldn't agree more. Moving on down the card, we have Gabriel Benitez taking on Humberto Bandenay. Benitez 8,500 on DraftKings, minus 225 on the betting line. Bandenay 7,700 plus 185. Benitez, what can we say about his last performance? Is taking on Jason Knight, biggest win of his career. This guy has been.
Win.
What's that?
Huge win, yeah.
Yeah. He's been up and it's been kind of like an up and down thing, but you can kind of see like. This guy sticks to a game plan, and he's very, very technical. He's taking on a guy who I don't know how much I can really say about him. This guy, Bandenay, is a finisher, and he proved that against Martin Bravo in his last fight. But it's like, what can I really take away from it? I have to trust Gabriel Benitez here, because like this guy kicks like a mule. Like his leg kicks or his body kicks, depending on the way that they're standing. Are just like, they're crushing. They slow down the fight, and then he takes over as the fight goes on. He's basically just trying to avoid some sort of flashy technique, I think, early on. Bandenay is a finisher. You go even to the regional scene. This guy finishes fights. He can finish by submission or by flashy techniques and whatnot. But I feel as though Benitez is one of these underrated guys that's progressively getting better, and we really saw the pinnacle of what he's capable of in that last fight. Like he dominated Jason Knight in his last fight, and like he didn't even it looked simple and formulaic, and he knew exactly what's going on. He's at a good camp
World class.
With all those guys at Kings MMA. He's like a little Rafael dos Anjos, basically, at this point.
Is that Kings? You still at AKA?
I thought, sorry, AKA.
Yeah,
my bad. So that's a terrible analogy to have. But like, he kind of fights that style anyway. But Benitez, I gotta go with him here to get the win. The line minus 225. Really, I think you're just dodging like a flashy technique, something crazy like that. And I think Benitez is the type of guy that you really like betting on. DraftKings wise, I'm not so sure because he just his style doesn't really lend to scoring in the same way. He was really good when he was like a 7,200 dog against Jason Knight in his last fight, but at 8,500, this guy basically never pays off 85 points. So maybe you can play him as like a cash game team where you don't really need the 100 points or 85 or whatever from him, but I like him to win. I think I like him more as a money line bet than I do as a DraftKings play, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I think Benitez has to get the victory. I had him over Jason Knight. Was obviously a great performance from him. Probably, like you said, best of his career. The guy's got the goods. Is that maybe he struggles a little bit with inconsistency. But when he's losing, it's not like he's losing to schlubs. And, they're big fights. I mean, that Andre Fili kick to the dome, I mean, man, you got hit with a kick to the dome.
There's a flashy technique that he got caught by, though.
That's something
we worry about.
Yeah, and that's the only thing I'm worrying about is that what if something lands. But this is the fight game. What if something lands? Exactly. Like, dude, it's a fight. Something's going to land. Just depends if it's going to land with the right amount of force.
One of these big favorites across UFC, like it's Chalk City, basically, Santiago. one of these people, as you like to say, is going to shit in the apple pie.
No, that's true. Somebody's going to... I don't know that it's going to be Gabriel Benitez because I am someone that backs this guy basically just... There's nothing that he does exceptionally well. He just does everything really not that bad. He's not a terrible wrestler. Training at AKA, he works with a plethora of the best wrestlers on the planet. So that's obviously something that he works on continuously day in, day out. Grappling, really not all that bad. Striking, though, his hands are pretty crisp. He keeps them nice, tight, sharp, and obviously the mark on this guy right from the get-go, ever since... Javier Mendez said he's the hardest kicker in the gym, and it's a gym like the American Kickboxing Academy. Yeah, the guy can kick like an absolute mule. He will chew up your front leg. We know what we're getting out of him. I would say that Mowgli Benitez at this point is a gatekeeper of the division. You beat him, chances are you're actually pretty good. If you don't beat him, and I'm not saying anything Jason Knight's not bad, it's just that maybe you're just not ready for that jump up in competition. And with Bandenay, don't think he's ready for that jump up in competition. He was a 3-1 underdog against Martin Bravo, who is terrible, by the way, and he clips him. He knocks him out in 26 seconds. What can I take away from that? I don't know. But here's a guy that hadn't really done anything notable in the regional scene. When you look at his losses in the regional scene, they're against his step up in competition. Now you win against Bravo. Okay, well, we're in South America. We're going to put a bunch of these Peruvian fighters on the card. He just kind of happens to squeak on as one of those guys that's in the mix. I don't see him doing anything all that good. I don't see him as being one of those guys that's ultra talented. And I don't see him passing the gate test, which is getting through the gatekeeper, which is Gabriel Benitez. Benitez is the harder puncher. He's the harder kicker. And if you gave me Bandenay versus Jason Knight, I got Jason Knight. I think Jason Knight's better standing and he's better on the ground. He was completely neutralized against Benitez. He could not take him down. Benitez actually at one point appeared to bite him in order to keep the fight standing. But that's a willingness to win, Paul. That's a willingness to do whatever it takes.
It's Jason Knight that bit him.
That.
Jason Knight bit Benitez.
Oh, shit. Well, in that case, he got bit, Paul.
You stop sullying the good name of Gabriel Benitez.
No, like I said, I mean, he's a good striker.
No, like he frustrated Jason Knight to the point where he had to bite the man to try to get him to stop putting that hot heat on him.
Yeah, because if you put him up against the cage and try to take him down there, dude, he's got a solid base on him. Everybody behind him.
Those leg kicks or the kicks, his kicks just add up on people. So it's like early on, and we basically just kind of went around in circles on this. It's like Bandenay's got to finish them early because those leg kicks are going to land. And when they do, it's just like you're that much less explosive and able to pull off any sort of flashy techniques like this. So
yeah.
It's basically, it should be formulaic for Benitez to get the job done here. Let's move on. We got Enrique Barzola taking on Brandon Davis. Barzola 8,900 on DraftKings, minus 195 on the betting line. Davis can be had for 7,300 and plus 160 respectively. Barzola kind of frustrated me in his last fight, taking on Matt Bissett. And he kind of just, with Barzola, it's just like this guy's kind of a Peruvian wrestler, which you wouldn't really expect much from the wrestling in the world of Peru, but
he's so strong.
He's so strong. And usually he just is relentless. Keeps going after it. That fight, he kind of seemed like he wasn't trying to go for the takedowns. Like round 2, he was just kind of like, oh, let's get a little bit of cage time in here. And when you're playing DraftKings, it's like, I don't want you to go and try to get cage time here. I picked you on my team to go and land takedowns. And when he started going and then round 3 again, he's like, all right, it's getting kind of close, getting kind of dicey. And he was able to secure the takedowns again. I'm going back to the well on him because this is an opponent that has even worse takedown defense. Brandon Davis, exciting. He's a training partner of Jason Knight, who we were just talking about. And you can control these guys by taking them down and controlling from top position. And I think Davis is an even less refined takedown defense specialist or takedown defense. It's very bad. That's the key to victory here. Barzola marches across, takes him down at will. As long as he sticks to that and doesn't go, hey, let's have a striking affair like we did against Wozniak back in the day.
Yeah, okay, see, there's
That's the thing is that he's done this multiple times now.
Yes, he's done this multiple times now.
Hopefully now he's learned his lesson because if he does land his takedowns, he's gonna pay off his 8,900.
Yeah, there's
But
there's
the problem
two
is
problems
he
there.
is somewhat untrustworthy.
He's kind of getting to untrustworthy because yes, if he does what he does best, what he's capable of doing,
Yep.
then yes, stylistically, he's got the style to do exactly against Brandon Davis what Kyle Bochniak did against Brandon Davis. He scored 5 takedowns on him. He just pushes him back, uses the striking to get him to the cage wall, grind him up against the cage, get takedowns. I mean, Bochniak fought the perfect plan against Brandon Davis. If you want to stay at range with Davis, dude, he's a pretty good kickboxer. He's a very athletic guy, played collegiate football, a guy that's developing. His fight on Dana White's Contender Series against Austin Arnett, man, he put on a clinic on him. His last performance in the UFC against my boy, Stephen Ocho Peterson, he shows what he can do. You got to get on this guy.
Peterson's super undersized, though.
Yeah, but you got to get on Brandon Davis and you got to sap the energy out of him. You got to do enough with the takedowns. So the game plan there, how to beat him, has already been written, and Barzola's the kind of guy that can do exactly that.
But he
I
never
gotta
sticks to his
question.
game plan.
I gotta question ring IQ because losing to Bochniak, he lost. He should have won against
should have won.
Bochniak, no doubt. But you know what the problem that
He
I
started
had?
throwing like spinning techniques and like stupid strikes and stuff.
He
It's just like,
decided.
don't.
He decided to get away from his wrestling to strike with Kyle Bochniak.
That's when
And
all
he
of the
should have
time.
won.
This guy's a good fighter,
Yes.
but like all of his troubles have come from getting away from his game plan.
And that's a problem. Now, if you look at some of his wins,
But I can't help myself.
I know, but when you look at some of his wins in the UFC, it's like, oh, dude, he took down Horatio Gutierrez 9 times. Like, oh, well, he's cut and he's no good. Well, man, he took down Chris Avila at will. Okay, he's lost 5 fights in a row, Chris Avila has, and he's no good. He's got a 5-7 pro record right now and just lost on Kabachi Americas. Funny fact, against Horatio Gutierrez, the guy that Barzola beat to win the Ultimate Fighter. So, dude, he typically doesn't really fight that high of a level of competition. His last fight against Matt Bessette, tailor-made for take Bessette down multiple times. And I think he did get 5 takedowns against Bessette.
He didn't do much for the first like 4 minutes or so, and then like
he fought
and
a
then when he
terrible
decided
game
at the
plan.
end of round 1, he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna go for a takedown," and he got it. And it's just like round 2 started, and I was just like, let's just continue.
Yeah,
Let's
I
go.
know.
We just learned that that's what's gonna work here.
I
then
had
he
a lot
didn't
of-
do anything. It was really
money.
annoying.
I had a lot of money on him, and I
Yeah.
remember being like, "Shit, this round's close." Then Barzola would get a takedown. I'd be like, "Okay, sweet, that gives him the round." But like, well, why didn't you just do that earlier? Like,
Yeah.
you had the capability to do that. I knew for DraftKings purposes, it's like, man, I need you to take him down multiple times. And because he typically takes you down and tries to just punish you, you can get back up. Then he doesn't take you back down. But when he gets away from that mold, when he thinks to himself, oh, I'm just going to keep this fight standing, I have trouble getting behind him. But that being said, he's one of these Peruvian guys that started out in Peru, got some experience, seemed okay, won the Ultimate Fighter, has used that opportunity to go to American Top Team. And an American Top Team, his training partners for this fight are former RFA champ Thiago Moises, Hanato Moicano, Mike Wilkinson, like guys that he's working with UFC quality guys day in, day out. No disrespect to Brandon Davis. I love the whole Alan Belcher team. I know he spent some time at Duke Rufus's camp up in Wisconsin as well. But I feel like Barzola has got to be just getting better every day working out with those kind of guys. Because, yeah, he's not the best wrestler in American Top Team, and he's sure as hell ain't the best striker in American Top Team, so he's forced to improve day in and day out. Whereas Brandon Davis, I feel like I know what I'm going to get out of him. Barzola just got to stick to the game plan. But the win over Bessette, that should have been a beer break fight for me. I'm gonna watch it, but I don't mind turning my back for 2 seconds. I know it's gonna happen. But it was closer than I would have wanted.
I agree. I was sweating.
He made the fight closer than it should have been. And now he's in front of what's not a hometown crowd, but he's in his kind of part of the world.
Well, you're flying an American in. And then Barzola's from Peru.
Yeah, and
he's a
and
South
you're-
American favorite.
You're getting fired up, and you know what? Maybe he struggles a little bit because like we talked about, he gets a lot of takedowns against kind of shitty guys. If he struggles to get the takedowns of Brandon Davis and then decides, screw it, I'm just going to use my hands for a bit here, it's like, you might get chopped up.
Yeah.
So I don't love it. But the one thing I will give Barzola props is Claudio Puelles and Humberto Bandenay have not left Peru. They've got an opportunity here. I'm not saying everybody should be a gym jumper. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying you fight in the UFC. You need training partners in the UFC. You need guys at that level that are going to push you. And Barzola has done that. So he is a prospect, in my opinion. He should get a little bit better. He's got Mike Brown and Dean Thomas helping him with game plans. Stick to one of them.
Yeah,
and
listen
you will
to
be
what those
okay.
guys say.
You might not understand English. I don't know. But just stick to the game plan.
Yeah.
And you should
And your
be
game
okay.
plan will not be trading with Brandon Davis.
He's a better striker than you, or at least
at least we'll have a higher volume on the feet.
Why do what he does best?
Yeah, of course.
Put him in his discomfort. Get him up.
Don't let me down this time, Enrique.
I agree. Let's just hope he doesn't. So
We got Frankie Saenz taking on Henry Briones. Saenz is 9,100 on DraftKings. Briones is 7,100. Minus 280 for Saenz and a plus 240 Briones. This will be on DraftKings the most probably under-owned fight. Saenz could be like a tricky little sneaky pivot play in this range if you think that he's going to land takedowns at will. But the problem is they're both like 38 years old, these guys.
Yeah.
And the one thing that really jumps out at me is like Saenz isn't very, I wouldn't say crazy trustworthy at this point in his career. He's getting older. We've seen the chinks in the armor, I guess you could say. And like they're still laying almost a minus 300 out here. Like they're basically begging you to take Briones. And I'm not going to take Briones. I think Saenz probably wins a greasy fight, pushes Briones up against the cage and makes it ugly, takes him down when he has to. Kind of employs the Alcantara game plan that he had a few years back there. I mean, probably the moment that we really recognized who he was.
okay, yeah.
I think that's what he does. I think that's his game plan here. But it's hard to trust either one of these guys. So I'm kind of just staying away in general. But I could see if Saenz secures a whole bunch of takedowns. Like this is the kind of guy, this is like that slate breaker, you know, like the card breaker on DraftKings where it's like he's owned like 10%. Like people are going to be paying up for Tatiana Suarez and Usman. And even like they may be grabbing Reyes because of all those first round finishes. Like I think, or even KGB Lee because she's able to bully. It's like, I don't know how many people are going to own Frankie Saenz.
Wow.
And I don't.
And I don't blame them.
And maybe you could, if he's going to be like 10%, if you make 20 lineups, you throw him on 3.
Yeah.
And you're slightly overweight on the field. So I haven't quite decided what I'm going to do with it. I'm not picking Henry Briones at all. I will completely fade him. It's whether I'm going to fade this fight altogether or add a little bit of Saenz. I think Saenz wins.
Yeah, I hate myself for saying this, but I don't hate Henry Briones.
Oh my God.
Well, dude, Frankie Saenz is very, very untrustworthy and, in my opinion, inconsistent. You're right. Breaks out of the UFC scene. He actually beat Nolan Tickman in his first fight, and it wasn't a riveting affair.
Is this the Saftic of the card?
Yeah, it could be. I don't know. We'll have to see what happens. But the big win for him is the Yuri Alcantara fight, where you get the fight to the ground. Alcantara, not exactly known for his wrestling, stay out of trouble. Dude, he's a massive underdog. He bursts onto the scene. He ends up getting he beats Sirwan Kakai on a split right after that. Not a good fight. Could have gone either way. Sirwan Kakai is now cannon fodder in Bellator, and I believe there's a good possibility he's retired altogether. But that, to me, showed right off the bat, you have a marquee career victory over a guy like Yuri Alcantara, who at the time was ranked in the top 10, and then your very next fight, you struggle mightily against Sirwan Kakai. Okay, no big deal. He fights Uriah Faber. He won one of those rounds against Uriah Faber. Probably 29-28 for Faber in that spot. So again, not looking bad. But since then, dude, I think age caught up with him rather quickly. Because his fight against namely Eddie Wineland, in which he got busted up bad. He gets KO'd in the third round. I didn't think he was winning up until that point anyways. Wineland is a old dog, man. He's got massive amounts of power, don't get me wrong. And not a really bad wrestler either. But keep the fight staying in Saenz. Saenz got short little arms. He does it. He's not a striker by nature. He'll throw strikes with you. But for the most part, Eddie Wineland just keeps the fight standing, is a better striker, knocks him out. That knockout, I think, took a little bit out of him. Because now you come back at age 36 and age 37, you got to get back to your wrestling roots. But he takes on Augusto Mendez, and that's a split decision that goes for Mendez. But the thing that I took away from that fight is that it's a very close fight. Potentially could go either way. Mendez gets the decision, but Mendez is really good on the ground, and Saenz is a good wrestler, so it keeps it standing. And here's Mendez, who's not a very good striker, just does enough to outpoint him. Now his last fight against Divashvili, dude, it's another split decision that's super close. He gets taken down 11 times in that fight.
Divashvili, we've talked about it. He's just kind of like, he's got freak strength. That's all the guy's really got.
Yes.
And he can obviously, as we saw in his follow-up fight, his neck is super, super hard, and he's able to basically get choked unconscious, and then somehow that was such a him versus Ricky Simon.
I think that was a bullshit call, anyways. But
it was very,
that's
very weird.
Not here nor there. What I'm saying is with Merab Dvalishvili is that he's able to get the 11 takedowns, whatever. It doesn't do anything with the takedowns. Saenz gets back up. Saenz ends up landing the better punches in that fight. But very important to know that on straight striking, he got outstruck in that fight. He just happened to land the better punches, and with an experienced commission, they're going to go with the better shots instead of just random ass takedowns in which nothing really happened with them, and more volume, but not the better strikes. A good commission will find that. But as I talked about earlier,
never had a UFC card before.
In Chile, who knows what they're looking at? And that's where I'm kind of torn on this fight. Saenz is a much better wrestler. Saenz' wrestling defense, not very good. He actually gets taken down in a lot of fights. He gets taken down left, right, and center. But offensive wrestling, I mean, yeah, he wrestled for Arizona State University. I believe he also wrestled for a year at Northern Colorado. He should be good enough to go in there and get the takedowns. Briones is not a sexy pick, mostly because he lasted approximately 2 minutes in his last fight against Ronnie Yaya. But Ronnie Yaya is really good on the ground. So if Saenz doesn't get those takedowns and this stays standing, I think Briones could just outpoint him. Briones throws more volume. Briones' fight with Douglas de Andrade, in which he gets KO'd in the third round, he doesn't start off bad whatsoever. He's got more volume. His fight with Cody Garbrandt, everyone assumed that he was just a dead man walking, but he went 3 rounds with Cody Garbrandt. He's able to get a bit of a striking game going. And on the ground, not that this is impressive by no stretch, but he's a purple belt. Saenz only a blue belt. So if Saenz doesn't get those takedowns consistently or starts to tire, and this is one of these fights that, dude, look at Saenz' last 2 fights. They're really greasy. They're really close. You can make an argument for either guy winning. And in both situations, Dvalishvili is not a particularly good striker, and it's a close fight. Mendez, not a good striker, and it's a close fight. Prior to that, Eddie Wineland is a good striker, knocks him the fuck out. So Briones is not going to knock him out. I don't think Briones is going to be able to choke him out, even though I do believe he's slightly better on the ground. But man, I'm not getting behind Saenz because I think this is going to be another close, greasy fight. Now, if Saenz is smart, he'll get that takedown. But as you get older, as you are 37, as you are 38...
They're both old, though.
They're both old, but...
You seem to only want to give... you only want to call it a disadvantage for Saenz being
I'll tell you why.
Briones is also old.
I know.
They're both
and
like
in my
38. I believe they're the same age.
They are, for sure. Briones is old, don't get me wrong. And in my screwed up mind, the way I've processed why it's more okay for Briones is that lifelong wrestlers tend to get shot a lot more quick because the knees go, and after you start to take that wear and tear, your wrestling is not as effective, right? Once that wrestling isn't as effective,
once you can't shoot into your double
right,
as powerfully.
He's a specialist. He's not a very good grappler. He's not a submission guy, right? A good grappler, yes, good wrestler, but he's not a good submission guy, and he's not a particularly very good striker. So his specialty is wrestling. And once that starts to go out the window, once you start to take on guys that simply just know how to stuff a takedown, then what is your plan B, Frankie Saenz? I don't know. He's, like I said, very inconsistent. Briones, meanwhile, was a Mexican hockey player for 12 years. I don't know. At least he's probably a somewhat decent athlete. But then from there, he goes to grappling. And then from there, he had spent some time at King's MMA. I believe he spent a little bit of time at Alliance, mostly King's MMA. Now he's back at that Entrom gym in Mexico, which is known as a striking gym. Him at 38, I would say, has a lot less mileage, even though he has more pro fights. He does have more pro fights. I just feel like he's got a little more left in the tank. Last fight against Yaya was terrible, but it's not like he took any damage in that fight. He just, well, maybe a little bit, but, he got Kimura and he tapped. And it's Ronnie Yaya, 2003 ADCC world champion. I can kind of let that one go. I don't love it. This isn't, oh, baby. See, I like Kondo. No. I like Kondo as a good underdog pick. I like Kondo as a good underdog pick. I don't mind Moreno, even though he's only a slight underdog. But this is a plus 240. This is a guy that's $7,100 on DraftKings. I don't see a finish materializing here. But if you're playing head-to-head games and you can play him, if you're on a cash game and you can pay $7,100 for a guy that could potentially squeak out a really greasy decision, man, you just saved a lot of money so that you can afford to pay up for some of the other players you like. Flip side to that, like you're saying, Saenz won't be one of these guys that's heavily owned. I don't know how he's going to justify this price tag that he has on him. But whereas you said you play 20 lineups, you might go 3 for Saenz. If I'm playing 20 lineups, I might go 3 and take the shot on Henry Bure. No relation to Pavel.
I mean, he's a Mexican hockey player. That's where all the real talent in hockey comes out of is is Mexico. We got Felipe Silva taking on Claudio Puelles. Silva 9,400 on DraftKings. Puelles is 6,800, minus 310, plus 255 respectively. You know what the line is here? The exact same as it was for Marcus Perez versus Boknovic when we recorded last week, and that was the first fight on the card. Felipe Silva looks like his Muay Thai is super, super devastating, great striker, and he ran into, sometimes you're the hammer, sometimes you're the nail. He ran into Mairbek Taisumov. If you're a striker and you're going up against Taisumov, shit's about to get real.
Yeah, what's the plan B there? You're screwed.
Exactly. You got to be able to take him down, neutralize
Yeah.
him. That's how you win that fight.
Yeah,
If you're going to go toe-to-toe with Taisumov, you're going to probably get knocked out more times than not.
Bro, your game plan is to take him down. Would you have Muay Thai tattooed on your chest? You are screwed.
So I don't take anything away from him getting knocked out. It's just like it is what it is. Taisumov's an absolute stud who would be fighting a lot more over here if he didn't have like weird like Chechen warlords probably funding him, hence why he can't get a working visa. That's neither here nor there.
Beast.
I think Silva rolls here. The problem is, as we've been saying all card, is who do you pay up for at the top here? Because if you have Suarez and Silva on a card, you're going to be taking some real greasy plays. You probably have to take your boy Briones in that spot. I think Silva continues to shine. He's super, super talented. He just ran into a very, very difficult matchup for him. A guy who's even more powerful, more ferocious on the feet than even himself. But I think he rolls here against the inexperienced Puelles, who probably doesn't really belong at this level.
Yeah, no, I got to go with Felipe Silva. So far, we've been doing quite good on these openers. If you look back, a while ago, anyways, Tony Martin versus Kanahara. Easy opener, great way to kick off the night.
They like throwing a squash match into the opener.
Last week, Marcus Perez as the opener, great times. This week, Felipe Silva, great times. That's exactly who I want to pay up for. I like him in the spot. Listen,
Round
Claudio,
one finish, basically. You're just calling it.
Yeah, one or two. Claudio Puelles, we'll talk about him briefly, just in case anybody's listening to the show that is obviously unfamiliar, and you wouldn't be crazy to be unfamiliar with Puelles. But Puelles was 2-0 in the Ultimate Fighter, makes it to the finals of Season 3 of Tough Latin America. I believe Chuck Liddell was his coach that season. And in the finals against Martin Bravo, he lasts, I believe, 2 rounds, and he gets just wish-wash. Shoe shine to the body, 2 body shots, he crumples over. Prior to that, he hadn't won the first round. He's only 22 years old. He's a young guy. He trains full-time out of Peru still. The old gym that Barzola used to train at, they used to be training partners, but Barzola's had the right conscious mindset to say, hey, I got to train with some better guys, and Puelles, unfortunately, hasn't. Only 22 years old, so again, I don't like rallying behind these super young guys that are inexperienced. He's a southpaw, got to take that into consideration, but he just doesn't have the level of experience. The fights that he was able to win, for the most part, he's able to get them to the ground where he's got some type of submission game where he's able to pull out, but I don't see that being a factor here against Silva. In his debut against Martin Bravo, he's all about all the single legs. No single legs. They do
the single legs?
All the single legs? No single legs. All the single legs. Not landing any of these single legs. And they just get sloppier and more desperate. Martin Bravo is a Mexican boxer, and he is just not getting this guy down. When he does somewhat get him down, the guy just pops back up. He goes to a rear waist lock, doesn't do shit with it. They go back to striking. He's got nothing. He likes to throw the odd flashy thing because he's a lucha livre purple belt. So he's a freestyle fighter, essentially, and he doesn't mind throwing spinning back fists, spinning back kicks, but they are slow, and you can see them coming. Now, the one thing he's got going for him is he fought Martin. He was like 20 years old. He's had 2 years off since then. And you know what? He's not a dummy either, because I think he got booked right after Bravo to fight Alex Volkanovski, and he was like, my arm! I didn't fight Alex Volkanovski. It's like, yeah, dude, good call. And then subsequent to that, he had a visa issue himself. So he hasn't fought in the UFC in over a year anyways. So now we might get a little more of a mature version of him. We might get a little more experienced version of him. We're also going to get a version of him that has some ring rust. So again, he probably wants to get the fight to the ground. I don't see it happening. He's forced to stand up. Martin Bravo chews him up. Felipe Silva was 45-3 as a professional kickboxer. 42 of his 45 victories coming by way of KO. He's also 30-0 as an amateur kickboxer. The guy wants to keep the fights. Muay Thai is tattooed on his chest. When he fought Shane Campbell in Canada, I thought, you know what? This guy's a good kickboxer, but Shane Campbell is my guy. If you want to just have a straight up Muay Thai match with Shane Campbell, you are going to get toe stabbed, and it's not going to be a good time. Let's see, John McDessie, 2-Chain Campbell up. And Felipe Silva shows like he's got a lot of power, man. He hits you, you are crumpling down. The problem is now that it's such a fun fight. You're undefeated here. Take on a guy, Merbak Taisumov, who good luck dropping this guy. And if you want to throw hands with him, that means hands are going to be coming back at you. And Taisumov touches you, that's pretty much the end of your night. And he himself gets blasted out of the water. But when I look at this fight, when I watch tape of this fight, Puelles is not particularly all that athletic. He's going to try to back him up. He's going to try to get some of those single legs, but he's going to eat shots. And when he eats those shots, you can just slowly see the gears in his head grinding apart. You can see him get more desperate. He gets hurt. Now he's throwing sloppy stuff. You just want a good example, if you're a kind of guy that watches tape, is that look when Felipe Silva throws a spinning back kick and look at when Claudio Puelles throws a spinning back kick. And it would give you an idea that one guy looks like he's attending his first kickboxing class and one guy looks like he's teaching said kickboxing class, been doing it for a very long time. Standing, I don't see...
Somebody's getting schooled.
Someone's getting schooled. And Puelles is probably going to get knocked out anyways, but then Bravo just goes to the body and he crumples over. It's one of those crumple and turtle away. Not crumple, try to defend yourself. It's like, please, ref, have mercy on me. Now we're year plus removed from that, and he hasn't left the confines of Peru to go get some exceptional training. I don't know how he's going to improve so much that he's going to be able to handle Felipe.
Get smashed.
The only path to victory for him is to get one of those single legs, and perhaps Felipe is no good on the ground, but I think Felipe is a purple belt on the ground as well. Like he's training his grappling because he knows he's a striker, and this is MMA. You got to well-round yourself out.
You can say it's one-way traffic. This is the guy you're paying up for on the card.
Yeah, $9,400 is a lot of money. And so if I'm going to take him, do I have to take a Briones? Potentially on some lineups, but more than that, I'm going to try to save up on a Kondo. I'm going to try to save up on a Brandon Moreno. I was able to make some nice lineups, in my opinion, fit. And when I look at the chalk favorites, like you said, Usman, well, maybe he's not going to get his value out of it. Tatiana Suarez, potentially, that could be something that you could pay up with. I'm on the fence with her. Reyes, there's a big question mark there for me. Andrea Lee, there's a big question mark there for me. This is one of those guys that's like, this is kind of one of those fights that's set up for, this is going to be an awesome
one-way traffic.
If it stays standing, it should be over. If it goes to the ground, that's his only saving grace. And again, I don't think he's experienced enough to make that his primary weapon and continuously get Silva to the ground and continuously grind him. Felipe Silva's training with better guys over in Brazil. I just have to feel the 9,400. I don't love it. I got to pay for it. The 310, do I love it? No. But I didn't love Marcus Perez for 310. The thing is, you got to pay to play. And that's exactly what most people did, I would imagine. And they're probably happy because of it.
Usually this is the time where I have like a little random topic. I got nothing this week, but you said that you do have one.
Yeah, and since we've been just talking about MMA the whole time, you heard Yanni? It's Laurel.
I've
100%.
heard everything.
No, so here's what I want to say.
Here, play it.
People have heard it. All I gotta say
I've heard
here,
both.
Paul, I gotta say
I've never
is,
heard Yanni. I never hear an N. I've
whenever
heard
we
Yeti.
do these shows,
Yeti.
Whenever we
but
do
then
these
I
shows,
also about 4 hours ago I played it because I was a little bit thrown off. Everyone else is seemingly hearing Laurel, and then I heard Laurel, and I not only heard Laurel on like the one, but I heard it on the high frequency, the low frequency, and like the double frequency. My head's all messed. I bet you if we played it right now, I may hear something different.
All I gotta say is, I love doing these shows with you, Paul, because I'm a strong opinionated person. We sit here, we chat, you make up great points. Love hearing from you. Love your opinion. Untrustworthy now. I don't know that I can trust anything you say.
Play it.
The thing's fucking dead.
No.
It died like 5 minutes into the show.
Why do you keep like...
Just off. Turn it on.
Press the button. And Cody...
Well, then play
For
it.
those... you press the white button here, my friend.
Dude, when the little white circle starts to go and the screen goes black, that's dead to me.
Cody, there's 95% battery left on this thing right now.
I didn't need it anyways.
Well,
then play it, Paul. Play it. Let's hear it.
Okay.
Let's hear it.
Okay, I'll look it up.
All right.
Cody was in Halifax recently. How was Halifax?
You don't know how to use that, do you?
I'm looking for the internet, Pat.
Internet. You're looking for the internet.
No, where's Twitter?
Press the home button.
This is why I said I wasn't gonna play it. It's a waste of time.
Put in the code.
People could easily just check it themselves.
I don't know the code.
It's
No,
1,
you've come this far.
5. Oh, we're in. All right.
Now you gotta find it.
Where's the Twitter machine? Do you have Twitter on this thing, Pat?
It's at the bottom.
Oh, there it is. We should get Pat up here.
All I'm saying was it was a waste of time.
It's not a waste of time, Pat.
It clearly says Laurel.
It doesn't.
Yeah, I just don't know that I can trust your opinion now, Paul. I'm kind of feeling that old Paul that used to get the main event wrong all the time is coming back, and I don't need you screwing this up for Kamaru Usman.
Okay, let's see what I hear this time. It should be playing. Oh, this is
a disaster. Yes.
This is great television. Why? This stupid thing. It says it's playing. He's probably got the. Well, this is a disaster.
That's why I didn't want to play it.
I keep clicking on the thing and it won't play. It just. Yeah. Well, that was a colossal waste of time. I hear different things. I bet you by the time after we're done here, we will go. I will probably hear something different than what I heard before.
Fair enough.
But I like to think of it as I have a little bit more of a trained ear. You guys are only able to hear it the one way.
No, they said
but
it was
it's like I was like an audio guy at Fight Network. Plus, I listen to Mayo stuff every single day. I have a refined ear, whereas you guys may just be a little bit like simpletons about all this.
No, it's people with traumatic brain injuries can hear.
I have had
Yanni. Exactly. Your football career back in the Oshawa days.
Football plus a couple nights in the hospital in Flin Flon, Manitoba. We'll get onto that maybe some other random topic day at some point. Anyway, interesting fight card. Lots of chalk. Somebody's gonna shit in the apple pie, as you like to say all the time. But I see a lot of violence across the board from top to bottom. So should be interesting. Definitely some decisions to make at the top there. You don't want to be going too spread out, I don't think. But that more or less wraps it up for us. I want to thank Cody Saftic for breaking down the fights with me. As always, I want to thank Pat Mayo for directing me how to use the iPad, but not completely getting all the way there. And for obviously doing all the sweet cuts behind the camera there. For both of those guys, I'm Paul Shaughnessy saying goodbye and good luck.
Experience! Experience!